congressmen. In 1830, America passed an act that will forever change the history of our nation. We are here to inform you that we do need to apologize to the Native American about the Removal Act. What the Americans did may seem like a way for the Americans to expand and grow, but they need to remember what's right. The Indian Removal Act was a terrible move, and that hopefully will be remembered as one of the worst things that America has ever done. There are three main things wrong with the Indian Removal Act that we would like to point out. One is that the Indian Removal Act went against the American way that all men are created equal. Even though it's an American statement, equality is worldwide. The Indian Removal Act also created the Creek War, only one of the main battles but many smaller skirmishes took place during the passing of this act. Third and finally, the Indian Removal Act was bad for America and the Indians because America spent over $40 million on the removal of the Indians and still didn't give the Indians adequate food or supplies. These are three reasons why the Indian Removal Act was a very bad thing and why we need to apologize to them.
We strongly believe that the Indian Removal Act started a very unnecessary war against the Native Americans and the Americans. This war killed several thousand people that did not deserve to be killed. The Native Americans tried to keep what was their own property, but because of doing this, the settlers started an uncalled for war. Some Native Americans and nations refused to leave their lands, which would be a natural reaction. This brought the Seminole tribe to war for a year, 1817 to 1818. In the course of this war, the United States military defeated a part of the Creek Nation. This forced the Creeks to lose over 20 million acres of land. The Indian Removal Act and the war broke several treaties that had been in effect since George Washington's time as President of the United States. A total of over 4,000 Native Americans were killed throughout the war, just because they were fighting for what was their own. Our belief about this situation is that if the Americans would have been forced to give up their own land, they wouldn't have, which is why we think that it was immensely unfair for the Native Americans to be kicked out of their own land and having a war trying to protect what was their own.
We feel strongly that the Indian Removal Act should not have been passed, and that the Indians need an apology. We killed thousands of people when we forced the removal. The land that had been theirs for many years, and we made them leave. When we forced them to leave, we didn't even provide adequate supplies so that they could survive. On the Trail of Tears alone, around 4,000 Indians died. 4,000 women, children, and men, all completely innocent. In the wars which my fellow congressman talked about, we also killed many Indians. We fought until they were all removed, and a lot of times they didn't leave easily, which means longer, more fatal wars. Not only did Indians die, Americans died too. For every 2 Indians that were moved to the West, one American soldier died. A death for someone to move somewhere else. Is that worth it? The Indian Removal Act was a step backwards because it denied the Native Americans their constitutional rights. Yes, they were Native Americans, but if you look at the title Native American, the word America is still in it. If we deny them their rights, then what will happen to ours? If we make one exception to rules, then we may as well say, you can't write what you want in your papers. You can't say what you want. People will start to be arrested for speaking against the president. We won't be able to write what we want in our papers. We will have to worship the God of someone else. If we take away the rights of even one Native American, then it will be as if we took away the rights of all Americans. What kinds of people say that a Native American can't take a white man to court? What kind of people say, I know we have treaties with them, they're savages, they won't care. But they aren't savages. Just because they live a different way does not mean that they are savages. What kind of people deliberately goes against their word just for land? A person that says, if you start to act like us and speak like us, then we'll let you stay. But they were here first. It is their land. They were the first to live in this wonderful place, which we now call home. They have as much right as we do. It was once written in a document that changed history, that all men are created equal. Well, they are men, just like you and me. So why is it that we have treated and are treating them like animals? What kind of people are we that we would make a promise we knew we couldn't keep? We said if they were like us, they could stay. We lied. We kicked them out anyway. This denied them their rights.
Now you can see our point of view on this tremendously horrible act made by the Americans. This is just a view, but we think everyone should open their eyes broader than just the Americans needed to grow and look at the starting faces of 5 Indian tribes that say, look, we did something wrong and now we have to fix it. Hopefully we gave you enough information and persuasive arguments for you to look at the situation the same way as us. Thank you, fellow.